something you've always wished you could do and can't? I have something like that. I've always wished that I could draw and paint, and I can't. I'm absolutely hopeless. Aunt Elizabeth can draw animals using the initials of her name. I can't do that either. But I read somewhere that you could use shapes to help you draw. So I thought I'd give it a go. Do you want to see what I came up with? I used 3 shapes. I used a heart, a circle, and rectangles. And see what I got. This is what I came up with. Can you see what it is? I hope so. It's not very good, I know, but I think you should be able to tell what it is. Well, just in case you can't, I've brought something to help. This is my friend Leo. He's a lion. Lion? Yes? Maybe not. Leo doesn't think it's very good. That's why we brought him along. So you could get the idea. Because our story is about lions today. I'm going to put Leo down here and he's going to keep listening to me. And if I get it wrong, he'll soon give us a quick roll. There you go. Just you sit there and listen very carefully. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been listening to stories about someone called Daniel. Daniel and his friends. It's about Daniel today. Can you remember Daniel was taken as a teenager from his home country and city of Jerusalem by the king of Babylon. And since then he's been working for the king of Babylon. He's an older man now. He's in his late 70s, early 80s. So he's been there a long time. And the original King Nebuchadnezzar has died. And we've got a new king. His name is Darius. It's a bit easier to say, isn't it? But you know, Daniel was still very popular in court with the king. The king had 120 governors who had different little sections of the country to oversee. And above them he had 3 supervisors, one of whom was Daniel. And Daniel was very good at his job. He was efficient. He was faithful. He was gracious. He was helpful. And the king was very fond of him. But the other governors weren't so fond. In fact, they were very jealous. And so they thought, we're going to have to do something about this Daniel. I'll tell you what, we'll spy on him and he's bound to make a mistake and put a foot wrong and we'll go and tell the king. So that's what they did. Days, weeks. And you know, Daniel didn't put a foot wrong. And they were really disheartened. We're going to have to think of something else then. And so they came up with the idea that they would go to the king and say to him, "Oh king, why don't you make a law that says that at certain times of the day, when they hear instruments blow, the people must stop what they're doing and bow down and worship you." Well, the king wasn't really a bad man, but he did think it was quite a good idea. Well, we all like to be popular. And so that's what they did. But you know, the governors had an ulterior motive because they knew that Daniel prayed 3 times a day to his God. And he would never worship a human being. So the king made the law, and every time the instruments blew, the people had to stop what they were doing, pray and worship the king. All but Daniel. And of course the other governors were watching. And as soon as they saw that Daniel wasn't worshipping the king but was still worshipping his God, they went and told the king. That wasn't very nice, was it? The king was horrified. Not because Daniel really wasn't worshipping him, but because there was a punishment. And the punishment for anybody who disobeyed the law was to be thrown into the den where they kept the lions. And the king was very fond of Daniel, and he was so sad, but there was nothing he could do. It was the law, and once the law had been made, it couldn't be broken. And so they took Daniel and they put him in the den with the rest of the big, fierce lions. They do look rather big, don't they? I'm jolly glad I'm not going into the den where they are. They look very hungry as well. And the king was so upset. And he said, Daniel, I hope that your God can help you. And then he told the guards to put across the door the big stone so the lions couldn't escape. But neither could Daniel either. And everybody left. The king went back to his palace. And he couldn't eat. And he couldn't enjoy the entertainment that they had for him. And he couldn't sleep. And first thing the next morning, he was up when the sun got up, and he rushed to the den of lions. And he shouted, Daniel, Daniel, are you there? And at first there was nothing. Daniel, has your God saved you? And he heard a voice. It was Daniel. And he said, yes, O king, I'm absolutely fine. God sent one of his angels to close the mouths of the lions, and they haven't harmed me at all. And when the king looked, there was Daniel, safe and sound. And he said to the people, get him out of there. Hurry up, get him out. And they pulled him out. There wasn't a scratch. None of his clothes had been damaged. And the king was so pleased. He was thrilled that Daniel was safe. And nobody was allowed to disrespect Daniel's God. And many of them prayed to him because of the wonderful things they had seen. And Daniel said to the king, O king, he, my God, rescues and saves those who trust him. And you can find that in the book of Daniel in chapter 6. God always helped Daniel because Daniel always trusted in God. And so can we. We can always trust in God, and we don't need to be afraid to stand up for what we believe. If we believe in him, then trust him, because he's always there to help us. I'd like us to say a prayer this morning and just ask God to help us when we're in difficult situations. Perhaps you'd like to say it with me. Let's put our hands together and talk to Jesus. Dear God, thank you for being with me through all situations. Please help me to remember to trust in you and give me the courage to do what is right. Amen. Our song this morning is about praying to God, like Daniel, 3 times every day.